In a world that seems to grow louder and faster with every passing year, I often find myself longing for a place where life moves gently, where people still pause, breathe, and live with intention. That longing led me to explore the quiet beauty of Japan, a culture where simplicity is not just a choice, but a way of life. There, I discovered something precious. Calm doesn't come from having a perfect life, but from practicing small, mindful habits every day. From the way they clean their homes with gratitude, to the unhurried ritual of making tea, to the art of cherishing just a few meaningful belongings, the Japanese remind us that peace is built in moments, not milestones. And the best part? These habits can be brought into any home, anywhere in the world, even yours. Today, here on Simple Earth Studio, we explore 8 Japanese habits that inspire a calmer, more grounded way of living. Gentle practices that soften your mind, ease your stress, and help you reconnect with what truly matters. If this resonates with you, if you're searching for clarity, balance, and a life that feels lighter, I invite you to subscribe. Your support helps us continue sharing meaningful, heart-centered content for a simpler, healthier way of being.
When I first heard the phrase Hara Hachi Bu, I didn't think much of it. Eat until you're 80% full. It sounded simple enough, almost too simple. But somewhere along the way, those words settled into my life in a way I didn't expect. Maybe it's because, like many of us after 40, I started noticing how differently my body responded to the world, to stress, to food, to long days that used to feel easier than they do now. For most of my life, eating was something I did on autopilot. I'd rush through meals, finish everything on my plate without thinking, snack when I wasn't hungry, and eat late at night because it was the only quiet moment in my day. Food became fuel, comfort, distraction, everything except what it was meant to be, nourishment. Then one evening, I read about a simple practice found in many Japanese homes, Hara Hachi Bu, a centuries-old reminder to stop eating when you're no longer hungry, long before you're truly full. Not a diet, not restriction, just a quiet, mindful pause, a moment of listening to your own body. Curious, I tried it. The first night, I ate slowly, noticing the smell, the warmth, the texture of each bite. I put my fork down between mouthfuls, and somewhere around the middle of the meal, I realized something I'd rarely paid attention to. I wasn't hungry anymore, so I stopped. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel heavy after dinner. I felt light, clear, present. Over the next few weeks, something shifted. My stomach felt calmer, my sleep improved, and my energy didn't crash in the afternoons like it used to. But more than that, my relationship with food softened. Meals weren't something to get through, they were moments to savor. I noticed how a lighter body made room for a lighter mind, how slowing down at the table helped me slow down everywhere else. People often say that after 40, metabolism slows, and it's true. Our bodies change, stress hits harder, digestion becomes more sensitive. But instead of fighting these changes, Hara Hachi Bu teaches something gentler, to honor them, to eat with respect instead of urgency, to give our bodies just what they need, not more. There's a quiet wisdom in stopping before the heaviness comes, in choosing nourishment over excess, in listening to the soft signals our bodies whisper long before discomfort starts shouting. And maybe that's what so many of us are longing for. Not another rule to follow, but a way to live that brings us back to ourselves. Because Hara Hachi Bu isn't really about food. It's about awareness, gratitude, presence. It's the art of knowing when enough is truly enough. And in a world where so much constantly tells us to want more work, more success, more things, learning to stop at 80% can feel like a small act of rebellion, a gentle rebellion, a healthy one. Some nights now, I light a candle at dinner. I sit a little longer. I breathe between bites. The room is quiet, the world slows down, and I feel something I haven't felt in a long time, balance, a sense that I'm caring for my body, and in some deeper way, caring for my spirit too. And maybe that's the real gift of Hara Hachi Bu. It's not just about what we put into our bodies. It's about the space we make for peace, clarity, and gratitude when we choose not to overfill our lives. A lighter body truly can lead to a calmer mind. And sometimes that calm begins with something as simple as stopping just a little before full.
I didn't understand the power of cleaning until the year everything felt heavy. My home wasn't messy in the obvious sense. No piles of trash, no overflowing closets. But something about the space felt tight, crowded. Like every corner carried the weight of forgotten tasks, old memories, or things I thought I might need one day. And the more cluttered my space became, the more cluttered my mind felt. I would walk from room to room sensing a quiet pressure I couldn't quite name. Maybe you felt that too, that strange, draining heaviness that grows when life feels bigger than you can hold. It wasn't until I learned about Osoji that things began to shift. In Japan, Osoji isn't just cleaning, it's renewal. A gentle, intentional act of clearing away what no longer serves you, so you can step into a new season with a lighter heart. Many people practice it at the end of each year, a symbolic way of releasing the old. But others do it daily, in small, tender moments, folding clothes with care, wiping a table slowly, opening a window to let fresh air sweep through. There was something beautiful about that idea, that cleaning could be a kind of self-care, a quiet conversation with your own life. So one morning, instead of hurrying into my long list of tasks, I started small. I chose a single drawer in the kitchen, just one. Inside were things I hadn't looked at in years. Dried up pens, expired coupons, tangled cords that belonged to devices I no longer owned. And as I sorted through it, I felt something surprising. Relief. Like each item I let go of took a little piece of heaviness with it. That one drawer gave me enough calm to move to the next small task, wiping the counter slowly, noticing the warmth of the sunlight on the surface. It wasn't cleaning for the sake of a perfect home. It was cleaning as a way to reconnect with myself, a way to remind my mind you're allowed to breathe. And the more I practiced these little daily Osoji moments, the more I noticed subtle shifts in my heart. When I folded my clothes, I felt gratitude for the body that wears them. When I cleared my desk, I felt space open in my thoughts. When I washed a single dish with quiet attention, I felt present again, anchored in the simplicity of what was right in front of me. It's easy to underestimate the power of small acts. We often think peace requires big changes, a new home, a new routine, a new version of ourselves. But sometimes peace begins with 5 quiet minutes, wiping a table, clearing a shelf, placing something back where it belongs. These small tasks don't just create order, they create clarity. When you remove clutter from your space, you remove noise from your mind. And when your home feels clear, your heart does too. One evening, after a long day, I walked through my living room and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: ease. Not because the room was spotless, but because the space finally reflected something gentle, something intentional. It reflected the life I'd wanted to live: calmer, slower, more present. Osoji taught me this. Renewal doesn't always come in grand moments. Sometimes it comes in the way you fold a shirt, the way you let go of something you no longer need, the way you choose to make just one small corner of your life lighter. And maybe that's enough to begin again. One drawer, one breath, one quiet act of care at a time.
I didn't understand the power of nature until life became too loud to ignore. For years, I moved through my days with the weight of responsibility on my shoulders. Work deadlines, family needs, constant notifications, and the unspoken pressure to keep going even when I was tired to the bone. Somewhere along the way, I forgot how to breathe deeply, how to slow down, how to simply be. Then, one morning, after another night of restless sleep, I took a quiet walk near a small park not far from my home. I wasn't searching for anything. I just knew I needed air, real air, not the recycled kind inside the house. The moment I stepped under the shade of the trees, something softened. The noise in my mind, the tension in my chest, the endless to-do list, everything grew a little quieter. The Japanese call this Shinrin-Yoku, forest bathing. It doesn't mean taking a bath in the woods, but letting nature wash over you, letting the trees, the light, the sounds, and the air gently clean out the stress you've been carrying. I didn't realize I was practicing it that day. I was simply walking slowly, listening to the leaves rustle like soft whispers, breathing in the deep, cool scent of earth and greenery. But with every step, it felt as if something inside me was finally exhaling. I used to think healing had to be complicated. New routines, new habits, new strategies to fix myself. But nature doesn't ask you to fix anything. It only asks you to arrive, to show up as you are. And for many people over 50, tired of noise, stress, and restless nights, this simple act can be transformative. Studies show it lowers blood pressure, calms the nervous system, reduces anxiety, and improves sleep. Yet what touched me most wasn't the science. It was the feeling of being held by something bigger, something steady and ancient that didn't need me to be productive or perfect. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need a forest. You don't need to travel to the mountains or find a hidden trail. A nearby park works. A tree-lined street works. Even 10 minutes of nature can reset your entire day. Just step outside. Let your feet move slowly. Let your breath deepen. Let your senses wake up one by one. Notice the way sunlight filters through branches. Notice the shadows dancing on the ground. Notice how your mind begins to settle when there's nothing to perform, nothing to chase. Shinrin-Yoku teaches us something many of us forget as we grow older. Peace is not far away. It's not something we have to earn. It's right outside our door, waiting in every quiet corner of nature, waiting in the softness of morning air, the rustle of leaves, the steady rhythm of your footsteps. When I returned home that morning, I felt different. Not dramatically changed, but gently renewed, the way a slow rain refreshes the earth. My shoulders felt lighter, my mind felt clearer. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept deeply. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, tired, or disconnected, try giving yourself those 10 minutes. Step into nature the way you'd step into a warm, familiar room. Let it hold you, steady you, slow you down. Sometimes peace doesn't come from doing more. It comes from returning to what has always been there, patiently waiting among the trees. There's a phrase in Japanese culture that has stayed with me ever since I first heard it. Ichigo Ichie. This moment will never come again. Simple words, yet they hold a kind of quiet truth many of us forget as life pulls us faster and faster. When we're young, we rush. We assume there will always be more time, more chances to listen, to laugh, to hold someone's hand, to sit still without needing to be anywhere else. But somewhere between midlife and retirement, something shifts. We begin to realize how rare each moment really is, and how easily it slips through our fingers if we don't slow down enough to notice. I remember one fall afternoon, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of tea. Nothing special was happening, just sunlight falling gently across the floor, dust floating softly in the air, the steady tick of the clock on the wall. But something about that moment felt complete, like the world had paused just long enough for me to breathe. I looked out the window, saw the leaves turning gold, and I thought, this moment will never come again. And instead of rushing toward the next task, I stayed. I let the warmth of the cup rest in my hands. I listened to the quiet. I felt fully alive, fully present, maybe for the first time that week. That's the heart of Ichigo Ichie. It's not about grand experiences or perfect days. It's about being awake to the moments we usually ignore. The way your spouse's eyes soften when they laugh. The sound of your grandchildren's footsteps running through the house. The sweetness of something homemade. The comfort of an evening breeze after a long day. These are not small things. These are the treasures of a life well lived, and yet we miss them when we're too busy moving forward, thinking ahead, or worrying about what we can't control. As we grow older, time starts to feel different. It passes more quietly, more quickly. And instead of racing with it, many of us begin searching for peace, meaning, or a deeper kind of presence. That's why the wisdom of Ichigo Ichie matters so much right now, because it calls us back to the richness of this moment, the only one we truly have. Imagine if we met each morning as if it were a gift, if we listened to the people we love as if it were the last time we'd hear their stories, if we treated each sunset, each cup of tea, each warm hug as something sacred, something fleeting, something worth savoring. Life doesn't have to be big to be beautiful. It just has to be noticed. And when we begin to see the world through that lens, the lens of this moment will never come again, everything becomes more precious. Conversations, quiet days at home, even the simple act of breathing in and out. So maybe today you pause just for a little while. You take a slow sip of your favorite drink. You watch the light change across the room. You look at someone you love and really see them. You let your heart rest inside this unrepeatable moment.
Because Ichigo Ichie isn't about holding on forever. It's about honoring the beauty that exists right now, the beauty you might miss if you rush past it. And maybe, just maybe, that's where peace begins. Not in having more days, but in choosing to be fully alive in the ones we already have. There was a time in my life when I mistook more for better. More things in my head, more tasks on my calendar, more commitments, more noise, more pressure to keep up with a world that never seemed to stop moving. Maybe you felt that way too, like life keeps getting through, yet somehow feels empty. It wasn't until years later, standing in the middle of my own cluttered living room, that I realized I couldn't breathe not because life was too small, but because it was too crowded. That's when I first learned about Kanso, the Japanese art of simplicity. At first, I thought it was just about tidying up or decorating with fewer things, but I soon discovered it's much more than that. Kanso is about removing the unnecessary so the meaningful can shine. It's a way of living that invites us to clear the noise, not just in our homes, but in our hearts and minds. I remember one quiet morning. The house was still, the kind of stillness you only notice when you finally stop rushing. I sat on the couch with a cup of warm tea and looked around. The shelves, once filled with decorations and old souvenirs, were now almost bare. Just a few objects I truly loved. A plant, a framed photo, a book that shaped me. And in that beautiful emptiness, something surprising happened. I felt full, not with possessions, but with calm, with clarity, with gratitude. Kanso taught me that a simpler room doesn't feel empty. It feels peaceful. The same is true for our schedules. When I stopped saying yes to everything, when I allowed myself the gift of quiet evenings and slow mornings, the days didn't feel wasted. They felt meaningful. I could hear my own thoughts again. I could enjoy the warm glow of sunlight on the floor, the sound of birds outside, the taste of my morning coffee. Presence returned. And then, almost without realizing it, Kanso began to shape my relationships too. I let go of the ones built on obligation, pressure, or old patterns that no longer felt true. I made space for the people who brought warmth, honesty, and kindness into my life. Conversations became deeper. Moments felt more real. I wasn't spread thin anymore. I was present, fully there. But the hardest practice of Kanso was learning to quiet my thoughts. For years, my mind was filled with worries about the future, regrets from the past, and the constant feeling that I needed to be doing more. Kanso showed me that mental clutter can be heavier than any box in the attic. Slowly, I learned to let go of old stories, of imagined expectations, of the belief that I had to prove something. And in the space that remained, I found peace. Kanso is not about living with nothing. It's about living with what matters. A simpler life is not emptier. It is calmer, richer, and more intentional. When we remove what distracts, what overwhelms, what weighs us down, we finally give room for purpose, joy, and meaning to take root. Life becomes gentler, more beautiful, more ours. So if you're feeling tired of the rush, the clutter, the noise of modern life, maybe Kanso is calling to you too. Maybe it's time to let go of what no longer serves you and make space for the quiet, honest beauty that's been waiting underneath it all. Peace doesn't always come from adding something new. Sometimes it comes from letting something go.
There's a quiet beauty in the way some people move through their days. Not rushing, not chasing,
simply flowing. I first noticed this during a trip to a small Japanese town years ago. It wasn't the scenery that moved me, though it was lovely. It was the rhythm of everyday life, a gentle, unhurried pattern that seemed to wrap the whole community in calm. Every morning, before the world fully woke, I'd see an older man step outside his home with a warm cup of tea. Steam rising, hands wrapped gently around the cup, he would just stand there for a minute or two, breathing in the fresh air. No phone, no hurry, just a simple moment of being alive. A little later, the sound of sliding windows opening filled the street as people let the morning breeze sweep through their homes. Curtains fluttered, sunlight flooded in. It was a quiet ritual, repeated every day, like pressing a reset button for the mind. After lunch, many would take a slow walk around the neighborhood. Nothing long or ambitious, just enough movement to help the body settle, to help the heart feel steady again. And in the evening, after the day's work was done, the warm glow of bathhouses lit the streets. Elderly couples, friends, even people coming alone, all soaking in warm water, letting the day melt away. It wasn't indulgence, it was care. These small rhythms, morning tea, fresh air, gentle walks, warm baths, created a softness that I could feel even as an outsider. A softness that said, you don't have to fight your day, you can move with it. And I think about that often now, especially as life around us seems to accelerate more each year. Many of us, especially in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, have spent decades pushing. Careers, families, responsibilities, expectations. We've lived by deadlines, not rhythms. And somewhere along the way, we forgot the simple truth. The body and mind crave gentle routines, not strict schedules, not pressure-filled habits, but small, steady moments that remind us we're human. Imagine starting your morning not with a rush, but with something warm between your hands. Tea, coffee, whatever brings comfort. Imagine opening a window and letting a little fresh air in, even if you live in the city. Imagine taking a short walk after a meal, not for exercise, not to count steps, but to help your mind settle. Imagine ending your day with warmth, a bath, a shower, or even a few quiet minutes with soft light. These aren't big changes, they're gentle ones, and gentle changes are the ones that last. When your days begin to form a rhythm, not forced, but flowing, something inside you softens. Your thoughts become clearer. Your stress loosens its grip. You start to feel grounded again, as if life isn't rushing past you anymore, but walking beside you. And maybe that's the lesson Japanese daily life whispers to us. Peace doesn't come from what you accomplish. It comes from how you move through your days, with intention, with softness, with tiny rituals that comfort the heart. So if you're feeling tired, overwhelmed, or a little unsteady, maybe start small. One quiet moment in the morning, one breath of fresh air, one slow walk, one warm ending to your day. Because when your days have rhythm, your life begins to feel like peace, not something distant or difficult, but something quietly waiting inside the moments you return to again and again.
I used to believe that peace came from having everything under control, every detail planned, every possibility accounted for, every outcome shaped by my own hands. maybe you felt that too. That quiet, heavy pressure to manage everything, to stay one step ahead, to make sure life never surprises you. But life, as it turns out, has a way of surprising us anyway. Years ago, a friend invited me to try something called omakase at a small sushi bar. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but when the chef smiled and said, "Just trust me," I felt my shoulders tense. Trust a stranger? Let go of choosing? Surrender control, even in something as small as dinner? It felt uncomfortable, yet something in me softened. I said yes, and what followed wasn't just a meal, it was an experience. Dish after dish arrived, each one unexpected, each one a reminder that sometimes the best moments happen when we step aside and simply allow life to unfold. It took me years to understand the deeper lesson hidden in that evening. We don't need to control everything. We don't need all the answers before we take a step. We don't need to hold the world together with our bare hands. And the truth is, we were never meant to. Somewhere in the rush of schedules, responsibilities, and expectations, many of us have forgotten how to trust the process of living. We brace ourselves against uncertainty. We worry about things that haven't happened. We try so hard to be prepared that we forget how to be present. And that constant grip, that need to manage life, slowly wears down the heart. But when we loosen that grip, even a little, something beautiful happens. There's a lightness, a softening, a quiet space where peace begins to grow. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean we stop caring or stop trying. It simply means we stop fighting the current and start letting life carry us sometimes. I think about all the times I've tried to force answers, when the real clarity only came after I stopped searching. I think about the nights I stayed awake worrying about things that, in the end, worked themselves out without my control. And I think about the moments when life surprised me with something better than anything I could have planned. Letting go brings serenity, not because life becomes easier, but because we become gentler with ourselves. Anxiety loosens its grip, the heart opens, the mind settles, we start to breathe again. And in that space of trust, something shifts. We begin to see life not as a problem to solve, but as a journey to experience. We notice the small blessings, morning light on the kitchen table, a quiet walk, the laughter of someone we love. We start living with life instead of against it. Omakase is more than a meal. It's a mindset. I leave it up to you. And maybe that's something we can whisper to life itself, not in resignation, but in faith. Faith that we don't need every answer. Faith that not knowing is part of the beauty. Faith that life in its own quiet way will bring us what we need. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, or the next time you feel that familiar weight of needing to hold everything together, pause, take a breath, and remember, you don't have to control it all. Sometimes the most peaceful thing you can do is trust the process and simply let life show you the next step.
There's a kind of beauty in this world that doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't shine the brightest or speak the loudest. It slips quietly into our lives, often unnoticed, until one day, when we finally slow down, we feel it. The Japanese call this yugen, the quiet beauty of the unseen. And the older I get, the more I realize how deeply this idea speaks to a tired heart searching for peace. I remember a time when my days moved too fast for subtle beauty to reach me. I was always in motion, always trying to finish one thing just to hurry to the next. Even the good moments felt rushed, as if I didn't have permission to simply be present. Then one evening, after a long week, I stepped outside just to breathe. The sun had already slipped behind the trees, leaving a soft glow in the sky. The air was cool, still, almost sacred. And from somewhere far away, I heard the gentle tapping of distant rain, faint, rhythmic, peaceful. It felt like something inside me loosened. That's when I realized this quiet beauty had always been there. I was the one who wasn't. Yugen isn't about grand experiences or perfect scenery. It's the subtle, unspoken moments that remind us we are alive. The kind of moments that can't be captured with a camera or explained in a sentence, only felt in the heart. Like the way morning light stretches slowly across the kitchen floor, the familiar creak of your old house settling at night, the soft smile of someone you love when they think you're not looking, or a memory that suddenly returns, warm, gentle, wrapped in time. These moments don't demand anything from us. They don't ask us to be better, faster, or more accomplished. They simply invite us to notice. And noticing, that's where calmness begins. The truth is, many of us have forgotten how to see this kind of beauty. Life today moves too quickly, too many tasks, too many screens, too much noise. But the beauty of Yugen doesn't disappear just because we're busy. It waits, silently, patiently, hoping we'll slow down long enough to feel it again. I've started making space for these small wonders in my daily life. Some mornings, instead of reaching for my phone, I sit with a warm cup of tea and listen, just listen, to the soft quiet of the house. Sometimes I take a short walk without trying to achieve anything, without tracking steps or answering messages. I just walk, noticing the way leaves move in the wind, the way a bird pauses before taking flight, the way the evening sky holds more colors than my eyes usually bother to see. And in these ordinary moments, I've found something extraordinary: peace. Not the dramatic, life-changing kind we often chase, but the gentle kind that settles into the soul, like distant rain softening the edges of a heavy day. Maybe that's the lesson Yugen offers us, that peace doesn't always arrive with clarity or big revelations. Sometimes it comes as a quiet feeling that reminds us life is still beautiful, even in its simplest details. So if you're tired, overwhelmed, or searching for meaning in a world that never seems to slow down, try this. Pause, just for a moment. Breathe. Look around gently. Let the world reveal its softer side to you. Because calmness doesn't begin when everything is perfect. Calmness begins when we finally slow down enough to feel the quiet beauty that's been here all along. I've always believed that meaningful change had to be big. New routines, new plans, a whole new way of living. But over time, I realized the things that truly brought me peace were much smaller, almost quiet enough to miss. Simple habits, the kind you might overlook, taking a slow breath before speaking, brewing tea without rushing, opening a window to let in fresh morning air, or pausing long enough to notice the softness of the light on the kitchen table. These 8 Japanese habits aren't complicated. They don't demand money or travel or a dramatic lifestyle overhaul. They ask for something gentler: intention, presence, and a willingness to let life be simpler than we're used to. And as we grow older, these small choices matter more. They steady the mind, they soften the heart, they bring us back to ourselves in a world that constantly pulls us away.
If this video brought you even a moment of peace, I invite you to subscribe to Simple Earth Studio. Here, we create calm, mindful content for people who long for a quieter, healthier life, especially in a world that moves faster than our hearts can follow. Thank you for being here. May your days be simple, peaceful, and filled with meaning.